Welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Sit back and listen to interviews, discussion about books, and anything else literary. There's always something or someone new on the show. Great. Good evening, listeners, and welcome to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast. Behind the books, honest voices, real stories. I'm Amy Shannon, and it's the second Sunday of the month. Welcome to Storytime for all ages. Today we are talking with an author of a children's book. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your book and where people can find it to buy it?
Thank you, Amy. I'm so happy to be on your show. My name is Dale Atkins, and the book that we'll be talking about today is called The Turquoise Butterfly. And this is a book that can be ordered online or at a local bookstore. It can be ordered through Amazon or Barnes & Noble, or people can go to my website, which is www.drdaleatkins.com, and that's DRDALEATKINS. And on my website, you can also order the book, or you could order it directly from the publisher. And it's mascot book, so it would be https://mascotbooks.com/the-turquoise-butterfly/ That's a lot. It's probably easier to go to my website.
That's fine. And it will, your website and that website will be in the description of this episode, so people can go right there and not have to memorize it. They'll be able to click on it and it'll go to your website. So
I think that's great. And thank you for asking me about the book. It's really an homage to my late mother, whose name was Sylvia Atkins. And I wanted to write a book which was inspired by her and also could guide people who are grandparents, great aunts and uncles, an older person who's an influence in a younger person's life, and to really talk about the ability that we both have, whether we're the child or the adult, to really forge an incredible intergenerational relationship. In this particular story, the grandmother and her granddaughter are very, very different. The little girl is hesitant. She is often anxious. She is often curious and interested, but afraid to try new things. And her grandmother is an adventurous person, and she kind of looks like and feels like a turquoise butterfly. She wears turquoise. She flutters around. She doesn't say no to anything. And once a year, these two come together and they have a week together. And the book is a moment in time of a week that they have together. But it's over 3 years. And in the duration, we see the little girl becoming more courageous and the grandmother becomes a bit more diminished. And so it's also about caregiving. It's about recognizing what another person needs and showing up for them in the way they need you to show up, rather than pushing them or pressuring them or being impatient. Yeah. And it's really about how love is eternal. And in time, the grandmother passes away and the little girl has to come to terms with that. And one of the metaphors in the book is a turquoise butterfly, an actual turquoise butterfly. Mm-hmm. And so one of the themes is about transformation and resilience. And so this butterfly becomes a very important part of their connection, and it is representative of the eternality of love, because after the grandmother passes away, the little girl does things that she wouldn't think she's capable of, and there always seems to be a butterfly nearby. So that gives her strength and makes her feel that she's part of this legacy and that she's not alone.
That is great, because I kind of understand that with my grandmother passed away a couple years ago at 101, but she was my best friend. And ever since I was born, it was just, we always had this great relationship. She had to take care of me when my mom was ill. And anytime my parents had to go out of town, they had 5 children. If everybody had to go to different family members because nobody wanted to take all 5 kids. So it was me and my gram. And
Oh.
a lot of times, he knew everything about birds. So our
Uh-huh.
bird together was the red cardinal. And it wasn't until we used to watch out her sister's picture window in the winter. We had snow and birch trees, and the cardinals would all just kind of swarm around the tree and the
So
bird
beautiful.
feeder. It
Yes.
was gorgeous. And, that was, my grandma knew everything about every bird. And then after she passed, it was like I see a cardinal everywhere. And that's also when I realized that, there's a lot of like sayings about, the cardinal represents someone who you lost and things
Yes.
like that. And I never realized that until afterwards. So now
Yes.
I'm like all things cardinals or turtles.
Well, I'm so glad that, first of all, you had that incredible relationship with your grandmother, and because it's so precious, and that you have that continuing relationship with her, because every time you see the cardinal, you think of her, and I'm sure that it sparks a memory of doing something with her.
Yeah.
And these kinds of signs are everywhere. And for my dad, it's a robin, also a bird, a robin. And I will see robins in seasons when the robins are not supposed to be here. And I feel that connection. And
Yeah.
and it's the same with the butterflies. So this is a story, but it's also my own experience. And it gave me great strength and courage in getting through my mother's passing. She died a few days before her 98th birthday, and she and I were, as you were with your grandmother, extremely close. And I, even while she was alive, she would talk about the butterflies. And she said, you'll always look at butterflies like you look at robins, and, we'll always be with you. And that was one of the messages that she freely gave, as if to say, I'm not going to be here forever,
Right.
but don't feel alone. Understand that this connection we have changes. And that's the other reason that I wanted to use the butterfly, because the relationship, the person is not here, but the connection is still here.
Yeah.
And the memory. So we have stories that we are reminded of, and that keeps the memory alive.
That's true. My mother passed when she was 44, and she and I were very close. And she just woke up one day, said she didn't feel good, and she had a heart attack in her sleep, and that was
what
it.
a shock!
So, and
what a shock!
She, like I tell everybody, because I have this Be Kind campaign, kindness, and that's the one thing my mom taught me. She taught me so much stuff. I mean, and most of it was not like she sat down and told me to do this, do this, do that. I mirrored what she did and how she was as a person. And she was kind. She didn't judge people by the way they looked. She didn't even judge people that treated her like garbage. She just wasn't that kind of person. Like she just couldn't be mean or nasty. She was always kind, even for someone who, So that is something that I realized not that long ago. I don't know, it just kind of came to me that, she taught me to be kind, and I thought if there was more kindness in this world, it would be a better place. So,
Amy,
yeah.
Are you aware that the book I wrote before this was called The Kindness Advantage?
No. Oh my goodness. No,
May I send you a copy of that?
I would love it. I'll after
this is amazing. I'm actually getting tears in my eyes listening to you talk about how your mother was a role model for you and rose to choose kindness no matter what she was facing.
Yeah.
And that even though she died so young, she instilled in you the essence of who she was.
And my
And
sons followed that too. I raised 3 out of 4 of my sons by myself, and because I was a victim of domestic violence, and their father just, I don't know, he
wasn't
went
kind.
away. Yeah, he wasn't kind. But my kids, they mirrored what I would be, politeness and being kind, and they were the kind of kids that, like, if somebody gave them something, I didn't have to nudge them and say thank you.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
a lot of parents do. They just automatically would do that. If we were going to the store or something and they saw somebody needing help, they would, or just coming out, they would run to the door and open it so for the person that was coming out of the store.
Yes. Yes.
And I was told by pretty much most of their teachers that they were the politest kids that they ever had. And even when they did something they weren't supposed to, or they didn't do their homework or something, they were just so polite about it that they didn't want to get mad at them, or reprimand them for not doing their homework or running in the classroom or something like that, because they were like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they were so polite about it. Yes, I ran. I'm so sorry. But yeah,
It's amazing that we're having this conversation.
it really is.
It really is. And I just, if I weren't tethered with my headphones, I would run over and get the book and show you and say, I must send it to you, which I will do, because what we did, and the we in that case is I wrote this book with my niece.
Mm-hmm.
And what we did was we just wanted to understand kindness. And it started off as a book about philanthropy and what makes charitable people, but it turned out to be that kindness was the most important quality that really spoke to us. And we just wanted to know what that was about. And just because of what you said right now, one of the most important qualities and attributes was no judgment and acceptance.
Right.
And really being present, and all the things that you're talking about, not only with the teachers, but with your mom. And I mean, you do that by, with your podcast, you're kindly bringing authors together
Yeah.
to talk about their books so that people get a sense of what's behind that. Because I think that one of the roots of kindness is trying to understand how we are all connected. Because if you really see yourself in this other person, then it's awfully hard to be mean. It's awfully hard not to see that you are connected.
Right.
And that was also one of the precursors for my writing The Turquoise Butterfly, because what I really wanted to try and establish was how important it is for people of every generation to be kind to the other. And that person comes from a very different culture, a different moment in time. They know things that the other person doesn't know. So are they going to have a standoff, or are they going to gently come together and share and exchange and learn from each other?
Right.
And I think that through kindness and patience and curiosity and letting people finish their sentences and not giving advice unless you're asked for it, but
Right.
just really supporting people.
Yeah, you just have to listen.
You just have to listen and be there. And so choosing to feature a little girl who is, hesitant and gets butterflies in her stomach, another place for the butterflies,
Yeah.
and is monitoring her butterflies and paying attention to what she can do when she has those butterflies, while paying attention to her grandmother and seeing that her grandmother is calm, like your mother
Yeah.
was kind, and using that as a model. And then the grandmother in the book shows the little girl what she can do when she's very nervous. She can lie back and she can sing a song
Right.
that will give her a sense of calm, almost like a mantra. And And I think that when we really are present and we look at people and we watch them and we observe what they need and help them discover how they can get themselves out of a tizzy, by being supportive,
Right.
it's the kindest thing you can do, because you really are giving that person skills that they may not even know they had. Or when someone's skills are diminishing and their confidence diminishes, instead of making them feel badly about what they can't do, you encourage them to still be together and do what they can do.
Yeah, I get like that. I mean, I've the last few years, I've because of injuries from 20 years ago, I've had a lot of medical problems, and because I was had some brain damage, and it gave me a neurological disorder. So over the 20 years, things just kind of got worse, and now I can walk around my house, but when I go out, I have to use a wheelchair or some kind of chair. And last Christmas, I had it was dumb, but I'm never going to the store on Christmas Eve. But
That's probably a good idea, even if you don't have issues.
exactly. And I had pulled myself over as far as I could go so I could look at my list and see where I had to go next. And
Yes.
this man came coming around the corner, and he almost hit me with his cart.
Oh,
And
no.
then he looked at me like it was my fault, and he said, "Get the F out of my way." And then I looked at him and I said, "Have a Merry Christmas." And he just didn't know what to say.
Right.
He just looked at me like he wanted, like he was in a bad mood or something. And I didn't reciprocate by, being angry or being a jerk like he was. I
Right.
just said Merry Christmas. And he just was like, oh, and then he stomps away, and I'm like, good, have a Merry Christmas. That's all you need to do. Kill them with kindness, they say, and
I
sometimes,
really think that's true. And when we're lucky, instead of getting killed, they get reborn in
yeah,
a way that allows them to notice what's really important.
because kindness takes no effort.
It's true, isn't it?
Hatred and anger and bigotry, that takes a lot of effort and can wear you down. But being kind, you just do it.
Well, additionally, when you do it, you are, there is this contagion of kindness.
Right,
And what happens is when you do something kind for someone, it changes your brain in such a way that you want to do more kind acts. The person you did the kind act for is encouraged and inspired to do a kind act for someone else.
right.
And
Paying it
even
forward.
if you watch someone do a kind act and you're not involved in it, but
Yeah,
you observe it, your brain also changes in such a way that there's a release of endorphins and you are encouraged to do something kind. So it's not only that you're not getting angry and that's shutting down your brain and sending off all this cortisol, which you
right,
really don't want to have. It's really massaging your brain, soothing you, and allowing you to feel what happens when you either perform an act of kindness or receive an act of kindness. And if you allow yourself, the next stage is often gratitude. And you say, this really was a wonderful thing. I'm so happy that I was able to help this person.
right.
Or in the face of the storm, when the man was so unkind and rude and insulting,
Yeah.
you on some level knew instinctively that for you, it would be better to say Merry Christmas, because for you didn't want to flood yourself with all those negative emotions and feelings. You wanted to have a Merry Christmas. It was
Yeah.
hard enough being in the store and reaching over and being there when everybody else is there.
Exactly.
So why add to it?
I know. And some people, they don't get it, but I think that,
They don't get, but you know what, Amy? People can be taught. People can learn.
I think
And
they can.
sometimes, because we're all wired to be altruistic, we're all wired to be kind. And even when we look at studies of very, very young children who see a puppet fighting and they see a puppet that's kind, always orient towards the puppet that's kind. And when they hear another baby crying in distress, they look and they want to be helpful. And I think that what's important is that we understand that since our brains are always changing, we can always feed them what we need in order to be healthy. And generally, kindness and health, gratitude and improved health tend to be partners. You know, when we come back to the book, intergenerational relationships that are positive make people healthier. They give kids confidence.
Yeah.
They make people feel as if they have purpose and their life has meaning. And these are such important elements in our lives, particularly as we get older.
Right.
That it's all rooted in kindness. So I'm still a few minutes back when you said about kindness, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I think we were really meant to talk today.
Oh, definitely. And after this, I'll send you my address. I'll email
And
you.
I will send you a kindness book. It's called The Kindness Advantage.
But yeah, I think it's just kids know, you know, they
Yes.
even kids that are abused or neglected, and you know, sometimes they feel like, or they just feel like they're on the outside looking in.
Yes.
But if they see something being kind, you're right, that's where they will gravitate to.
Yes.
And I think more so because of whatever trauma or whatever they're dealing with, you know, their sense of self or safety, or that, you know, they may not quite trust kindness, but that's what they will gravitate to, because they might think that, oh yes, daddy hits me, but sometimes he's nice, you know, or
it's a very mixed signal with kids in those situations. And I think that one of the things, and I totally get what you're saying. One of the things we know, and I know you know from your studies and your history and your lived experience, is that even when someone is brutally treated, if there is one person in their life, it could be a coach, it could be a teacher, it could be a neighbor, it could be anybody, it could be an aunt. If one person, number one, believes them and is kind to them, that can give them a lifeline, and that can help them endure some awful things, because what this other person is sharing with them is that they are worthwhile, that they are valuable, that they are important in the world, and that someone sees them and cares about them. And that can really, really help a kid hang on to self-esteem and a sense of who they are, that they have value, even when they are getting all kinds of messages from adults who are powerful.
right.
And it can be very, very helpful. So, you know, I always try to remember and to share with anybody in my life, when in doubt, choose kindness. When at a crossroad, take the kind road.
Okay.
And I think that some people think, oh, come on. But then when they see the research and they feel the difference, when they feel the difference and understand that you do a kind act because it's the right thing to do. And, well, they weren't kind to me. That's okay. You have to take care of yourself.
Well, that's their problem, not yours.
Right. You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You don't always want to put yourself in harm's way, but you don't need to be mean. You don't need to insult. You don't need to belittle. What we need is to treat people the way in our deep heart we would like to be treated.
Exactly. Yeah. And that is like the rule from the beginning of time.
Yes, it
is. Do unto others.
Yes, it is.
And I think it's just so people need to take a step back and think about their their actions. There's so much hate in this world. People are pitted against each other, friends and colleagues and family members split and they're not speaking to each other because they disagree, especially when it comes to politics or religion. And I remember talking with my grandmother. I mean, she lived to be 101, and she died in 2022. So when we were talking, and there was so much that was going on, and she said that, no matter how many presidents she lived through or politicians, that she had never in her lifetime seen people actually, instead of debating, healthy debates, just like, oh, well, if you don't see my way, then I don't want anything to do with you. I mean, and she just couldn't understand it. And neither could I. I can't. I don't understand that. I mean, sure, if I wanted to, I could be mean, but I don't. I don't want to be mean. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood and I'll warn my sons I'm in a bad mood, and they're like, okay, Mom, we know to stay away. And if they're in a bad mood, they go in their room and close the door. I mean, all my sons are adults now, but I live with my twin sons and my one son, his wife, and we all have our own space, and which is what we need. And when someone needs space and the door is closed, we know that that's the boundary. We don't go past it unless you knock on the door. Me, I have a do not disturb or a please knock. So,
well, I think that you're talking about kindness from the perspective of lived kindness, respecting boundaries, understanding who each person is, and that we all are unique and we all need our space. Apropos what you said before about the political discourse, when my niece and I wrote the book, it took us 5 years to write the book, and it came out just around the time of the election, the first election of Trump. And people said to us, oh my God, you must have written this like overnight because this is exactly what we need. And it was so interesting because we were sensing shifts in behavior, and people were getting away with really unconscionable behavior, unkind, inhuman, insulting. And what we wanted to do was to ask people not only to check themselves, but to not be a part of something that they see. So are you going to be a witness or an ally? Are you going to stand by and see something terrible? Are you going to allow someone to say something without speaking up? And so the kindness was not just check yourself, which is important, but also if you're with someone who is behaving in a way that makes you uncomfortable, what is a kind way to let that person know without judgment, but that this doesn't work for me? This is not okay. Do you want to talk to me about why you're so angry or why you find the need to insult this person? Whatever it is. Yeah. And you don't have to be a therapist. No. You just have to be a person. Yeah. A human being who refuses to let another person's humanity drift away so that you don't recognize that it's there. Yeah. And I think that that's an important element of what you're saying. And I just wanted to say one more thing, if I could. Sure. It starts with ourselves. Yeah. Because if we're really kind to ourselves, we recognize what we need. We recognize that none of us is perfect. We recognize that if we're in a bad mood, we don't have to share it with everybody. Right. We can take care of ourselves and do what we need to do, and then sort out if we have something we need to say or a message we want to get across to somebody or react to something in a way that we want to get our message across. Right. Do it in a way that is kind. That's true. Because then it's more likely to be received, and it may not be the right time. So you circle back another time, or you decide that the best way for me to take care of myself is to put this aside because I'm just making myself crazy and I'm not having any effect. on anybody else. And so the kindness needs to start with ourselves, and then we have a reservoir to draw from.
Right.
Otherwise we're running on empty.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about books, but we're talking about what drives us to write a book, to tell a story.
Right.
How do we remember things? Do we tell the same story over and over again that really makes us unhappy and upset? Or do we say, this is something that happened to me and it was really awful. What did I learn from it?
Yeah.
How am I different from it? What do I need to teach someone else about it? When I talk about intergenerational relationships, most of us like to talk about all the good stuff. And that's lovely, except that very few children hear from their parents or grandparents how they struggled through what they needed to get through and get on the other side of something that was really challenging.
Yeah.
And I think it's an important lesson for older people to share with younger people.
Yeah, the good and the bad.
Pardon?
The good and the bad.
Exactly. Because even though the bad was bad, it might have been the best lesson I ever had in my life to become who I became.
Yep.
And if I excise that from my history, how will I know what the lesson was, and how will I share it, and how will it be a lesson of history? And you could apply that to yourself, to your family, to your community, and to your country.
Yeah.
You deny history, how are we ever going to learn, and why won't it keep repeating itself?
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
And that's the kindness message. Because the kindness is being kind to yourself as you are evolving and tripping over yourself and making the same mistake 3 times or 10 times. Yeah. Then finally waking up and saying, this actually isn't working. I might have to do something different.
Exactly. Oh, and I would love to have you back on the show because this has been a great conversation. I love talking to you, and I definitely
love talking to you. This has been such a gift, Amy.
Oh,
thank you.
You're so welcome. So I'm just going to wrap up here, but I will send you my address because I
Please do
in that book. So it's the end of another great conversation, and thank you for being on the show, and thank you, audience, for listening. If you wish to be on the show for this segment or a regular episode, go to amysbookshelfreviews.com/podcast and schedule your pre-recording. Please follow this podcast on Spotify. I'm Amy Shanlon. Be safe, be well, and always be kind. Tune in here again next week for another tantalizing discussion. Thank you for listening to Amy's Bookshelf Reviews podcast.